During the winter months, one of my favourite pastimes, and it's a pleasurable pastime as well, is to go through samples of leaf litter or wood chip or wood mulch and dry manure. And it's the latter that I'm going through today. It's very inclement outside, so when it's inclement outside, I can sort through bags of this stuff. Say manure, and it's a sample of manure taken from a manure heap which has been stood for the best part of a year near a farm just south and outside of Ollerton, just at the side of the A614. I'm struggling to find areas or manure heaps that I can take samples from, but we have one that we can go through, and it's just a case of tipping out handfuls of manure into a plastic tray as such, and then sorting through it by hand. Manure, surprisingly, when in heaps in fields, unless it's the really old stuff at the bottom of the heap, isn't as smelly at all. In fact, there's no odour from it, only just an odour of straw. So we'll see if anything turns up. Pseudoscorpions or false scorpions is what I'm after, but there's usually an assortment of tiny spiders and tiny beetles and tiny flies. It has been known where this room has been full of thousands of tiny flies after I've gone through one bag of manure. So we'll see what we get. So we have a bag of manure. So it's very dry, it doesn't smell at all, it's not offensive in any way. I've worked with manure all my life and I've never had any problems, and it's just a case of when you do gather any material for hand sorting through, go for the drier stuff or stuff where it's just on the point of being damp, and it's just a case of working through it and taking out most of what there is, and we're left with that small amount just to sort through. When I say sort through, quite often it's just a case of me sat gawping at it, waiting for something very, very tiny to move. I'm just wondering whether, because we've had so much rain, I didn't go down far enough into the drier stuff. But we'll see if anything turns up. But I'll warn you now, it'll be tiny. Well, I was getting a little bit despondent. Had gone through most of the carrier bag down to just the last couple of handfuls of the manure sample, when all of a sudden I saw this. If you look in the centre of the screen, just under that joint of straw, there's this chap. And going on experience with these and manure sampling, I think this most likely is Lamprechernese nodosus. There are a couple of other options, and I will need to just have a closer look without killing the specimen, I may add. The other one it could be is Lamprechernese scorpioides. Very long names for such a little invertebrate. But I don't care how long the name is, it's just nice to get one of these. And I honestly didn't think that I would be completing this video. I thought I'd just be filming the first few bits, not finding anything interesting, and that was it. The video would be thrown away, but we have success. And Lamprechernese nodosus is one of the commonest that you'll find in a manure sample. It often turns up in compost heaps too. You can find this in your own garden if you have a well-rotted compost heap. Keep a lookout for these. They are absolutely fabulous things. I never get tired of seeing them. And in fact, this is my first pseudoscorpion of 2025. And to be honest, that's largely because I've not done any sampling. In fact, looking on the channel, it's a year ago since I last did a sampling video. You can't do everything all of the time, unfortunately. Time constraints and that, and the world of invertebrates being very broad and wide-ranging, and pretty much 365 days of the year. But I do like to do sampling during the winter months. It passes the time on and gives you the opportunity to look for species that aren't usually well recorded in any county, and this especially applies in Nottinghamshire. Nick and Samantha Brownlee have done a little bit of work on false scorpions, and I continue to do so when I remember. And I do love sampling manure samples or leaf litter samples or grass samples, grass cutting samples. But with manure samples, you're pretty much guaranteed success like this. Might look rough, but it doesn't harm anything. We've got rid of the majority of what we've just shaken through. We can slowly diminish it even further. I often turn the tray just up a little bit. Makes it easier to look into. You can see whether anything's moving around or whether it suddenly appears, and just gradually remove the contents as you go. You can see how little there actually is in this sample. I'm surprised and amazed really that we've got a false scorpion out of it. In fact, I've only had three beetles, sorry. All very small, of course. And a couple of spiders. Maybe that it is too wet with all the rain that we've had. The only smell there is of damp straw, because that's what the majority of any manure sample is. It's just straw. There's an old saying in the UK that you can stand and wait an hour for a bus only to find that two or three come along within the space of a few minutes. And that saying can be applied to false scorpions in handfuls of dry manure. We have a second one, and I believe it to be the same species as what we've just looked at. I think this is Lamprochornes nodosus. It's a smaller specimen, but looking at it, I have a fear that this is nodosus. And nodosus, to be honest, is the species that you would most expect to turn up in manure samples such as this. It's also found in compost heaps as well. So if you have a well-rotted compost heap in your garden, have a look for these in it. It's very much a synanthropic species, which means it lives near to human habitation and is associated with human habitation. But they're quite remarkable little things. I just love these, the way they hunt like that and grab little bits, just as that has done there. Actually, it's taken something and put it to its mouth. So we have 2 out of this sample, and I'm really well chuffed with that, because say there was a lack of any other invertebrates, so nice to get a second. Well, this is the last of our sample for today. There's been a few woodlice in, but they've all been immature Porcellio-scaba, the common rough woodlice. I thought there'd be a lot more in than this, but this particular sample found right at the very bottom, the dregs of the carrier bag has produced the most invertebrates. There's a couple of spiders of Ostearius melanopygius, which is a very attractive spider. The males have a red abdomen, as do the females, but in the case of the males, it looks as though the males dipped its abdomen in a pool of black ink. You may well see running around towards the outside of this sample some ant-like beetles, and that's Ononardus floralis. It's a very small beetle. There's not been that many Nottinghamshire records, but if people do more sampling such as this, it will turn up, and it will turn up usually in numbers of any sample. One just gone across the bottom left-hand corner there, but they never sit still. So they're absolute swines to get any kind of photograph of. But by spreading the material out, you eventually allow things, you give them time to break cover, and that's usually how you'll find your false scorpion. All of a sudden it will appear from underneath something. It may not be everybody's idea of fun going through a bag of manure, but say it doesn't smell, but it can give you an hour of great entertainment. You never know what's going to turn up in it, but whatever turns up in it is going to be small, so identification of species isn't always easy. But you'll be surprised at what's in a carrier bag of manure. And I'm happy with my 2 false scorpions. Well, that's the last of that sample, and a productive sample it eventually proved to be. Sometimes you can get a false scorpion in the first handful that you go through, but it depends how long that sample has been sat in the carrier bag. Things tend to go downwards or upwards and out of the carrier bag if you're not careful, so do secure it tightly, otherwise you can lose a few flies and all sorts before you've even gone through that sample. So my first sample of this year, I don't think I did any sampling work earlier in 2025, and so I found my 2 false scorpions. May well be the same species, may well be 2 different species. We shall find out when I've had a look and had a chance to photograph them, and I'll put what species they were in again at the end of this video. But it's a great way to pass a bit of time on a horrible day like today. When it's a nice day, go out and collect a sample, whether it's of moss, of leaf litter, of anything. You can collect that sample, and then when it's a wet day and you can't get out and it's cold, stay indoors and saw through it. Get some great records for your county by doing so.